So Adobe Air has been around for some time, initially the desktop and migrated over into the mobile space. So right now it currently supports Android, the Blackberry tablet OS, and the iOS mobile operating systems. Those are the mobile spaces it currently supports. So let's talk about what it can do. Well, out of the box, it gives you access to the geolocation if the phone supports it, access to the accelerometer if the phone supports it, access actually to the cameras now. That was added in version 3. The earlier versions, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, did not have support for multiple cameras. So if your device did have 2 cameras, it only supported what was called the primary camera. It has support for multi-touch and gesture. Those are actually 2 different things. Multi-touch allows the acknowledgement of touching in 2 places simultaneously. And that will be based on whatever the device supports. Some devices support up to 10, some devices support only 2. Something to be aware of as you develop your application. Some of the lower-end Android phones that do support Air are only 2 input device modes, while some support theoretically up to 20, I think is the limit. Additional to multi-touch, within Air itself, it has the ability to understand gesture. So if you've used a smartphone, you probably have used a swipe gesture, you've used the tension zoom, you've probably used a rotate gesture. Out of the box, you can flip into gesture mode and listen for explicitly those gestures the same way you would listen for a mouse click or a touch tap. So there's no need for you to try to figure out all the complicated math of saying, oh, did I swipe? You know, what is a swipe? That's out of the box. It understands screen orientation. So that is handled there for you. You just have to listen for that event within a standard event listener. Access to the microphone. One way these smartphones work is they all have GPUs in them. And the GPU, if you don't know what that is the graphics processor unit. So it can offload a lot of the graphics heavy lifting, and actually we'll talk more about this later, onto the GPU chip, leaving the CPU chip able to do some other stuff. That's actually one of the secrets of the sort of smoothness of the iOS platform, is a lot of the GPU offloading is actually done for you. There's not a lot of explicit work that you have to do. So that's why a lot of things scroll so smoothly over iOS, is they're all being rendered and managed over on the GPU side and not the CPU side. Just like the desktop, we have a SQLite database, which is great for storing your information in a nice, concise fashion. And there's some more that we'll get to. There are some negatives with the Air for Mobile situation. You do not have access to native widgets. So if you're going to have a scrolling list, whether it be you're building this in Flash or with the Flex framework, you do not have access to the true native scrolling list. You know, with Flash, you're writing your own scroller. You do not have access to the iOS buttons, the iOS tabs, the Android tabs. Every UI component you have to build. I mean, there are some component libraries out there, but you do not have direct access into the phone's native UI. So if your application needs to look very native, Air for Mobile is probably not your right choice. You probably either want to look at something like native development, or something like possibly Titanium Accelerator, which does expose the native controls. You are sandboxed from some other things on the phone. Contacts, for one. So if you're trying to build something that could access into contacts, or even from that go into some SMS, some text messaging capability, a lot of that is very, very limited. So these are some real decisions you have to make in choosing your platform and your technology. Now, if you're doing a game, native widgets, probably not important. Access to contacts, probably not important for a game. But You know, if you're doing something else, that might be something critical. So it's just stuff to be aware of.